So in terms of yourself, how do you see yourself kind of like getting more involved in this digital gold rush using Authentic African?
It's a great question. So, you know, anytime the word gold rush is used to describe something, I always remind people of how income was generated during the original gold rush. So the gold rush, and for those of you who are not familiar, there was a gold rush in America. And there's a football team called the San Francisco 49ers. Their helmet is gold. So they're red and gold. And the reason why it's gold is because of the gold rush. And it was 1849. There was a gold rush. I guess some people found gold in San Francisco, and everyone was flocking to the West Coast of America to go find gold. 60% of the income generated during that time was not people actually digging or finding gold. It was people selling products and services. So major companies that came out of that is Wells Fargo, which is a big bank in the United States, Levi Strauss, which is obviously a big jeans company. And these companies came out of that time because they were providing services for everybody going to find gold. So for me, that is how I approach everything I do with Authentic African is being the bridge and providing services and providing knowledge to those people who are looking to find gold, right? So that's the investors that are looking to dig for gold, which is investing in companies and hoping to get a return. And that's the startup founders who are looking to start a company and hopefully get some funding, maybe outside funding. And so just offering those services in terms of like being able to bring those investors to those companies and also being able to share those stories with investors. And so I see that's where I kind of fit in. So that evolved from the original state of Authentic African, right? The original plan for Authentic African was an e-commerce store in the States selling products made in Africa to Americans. I had been going to Sierra Leone, and I remember buying a mask that was maybe equivalent to like $5. And I had my apartment, I used to call it a modern, I would call it African modern. So I had like all the most up-to-date furniture and appliances and all the devices and things, but I also had masks and carvings all over my house. So you knew that I was African when you came to my place. And I had a party one day and somebody asked me how much would I sell my mask for? I was like, I'm not selling it, but if I did sell it, maybe I'd sell it for $100. And she's like, yeah, that seems reasonable. And it was $100 I said, but I bought it for $5.
Was that a light bulb moment for you?
It was a light bulb moment. So that night, I had already had an e-commerce store that was focused on the cannabis space, which I used to use. I used to use the gold rush to talk about the cannabis space because I was in California, and California is the 6th largest economy in the world. And they, at least at the time, which is insane, right?
Huge state. It's a huge state, though.
And it just as a state, it's the 6th largest economy in the world. And so they were just now legalizing recreational use of cannabis. And so for me, I wanted to provide services to those folks. So I had an e-commerce store, ran into an issue with Facebook shutting down my ads, et cetera, et cetera. So I was already thinking about what is the next e-commerce store I'm going to start. And it was that moment when I had that conversation that the light bulb went off. So I consumed some cannabis that night, and then around 3 or 4 a.m. that night, or the next morning.
To this?
Of course, it was completely legal in the United States, in California at the time, recreational use only. You know, it was available at that point in time. And so at that time, I started thinking about names for a business, and I was like, what works? And I tried African imports, American imports, and I landed on Authentic African. And I thought about the diaspora flag with the fist in the middle and the red, black, and green, and just all the different things that kind of start flowing when you're in the zone and you feel like you landed on something.
Yeah.
And so I launched the e-commerce store a month later. So that was January. I launched it on February 1st, Black History Month in America. So there was a reason for that. And then I launched the Instagram page at that time too. Nice. So that was February of 2019.
Wow.
And that was the sole focus was to really promote the e-commerce store. And when I built started the Instagram page, I started thinking about how do I provide more value than just posting product pictures. So I started thinking about my feed and the things that I see in my feed that I find interesting that I kept sharing with all of my friends. You know, anytime there was a new president that said something like, you know, we're not gonna sell cocoa to this country anymore, or we don't need Europe anymore, we don't want aid, we want partnerships, all those kinds of things I would share with my friends. And I realized that could also be interesting on the Authentic African page. And I thought to myself, it shouldn't only be about the e-commerce store, it should be about educating the diaspora and Africans about what's happening on either side. And so from there, I started building that, and I still kept the e-commerce store, but I really started focusing more on providing value through Authentic African because I just felt like I was more passionate about providing that value. And so I did that for 2 years. And then when I planned to move to Ghana, a friend of mine already had a YouTube channel. And he was the one who really pushed me to start the YouTube channel. He was like, you talk a lot already. You don't, somebody can ask you one question, you can talk unprompted for like 2 hours. So I was like, okay, that's fair. He was like, just watch me edit, you know, and so I could see how he edited and also saw how he filmed.
Okay.
So those two things are like critical, right? And then everything else you can learn from watching YouTube videos. People can show you how to do thumbnails and title videos and, you know, all those kinds of things. So, so I was convinced, you know, we shot 13 pieces of content together before I launched my channel. And then I launched my channel, the Authentic African YouTube channel in February, of course, Black History Month of 2021. So 2 years after the Instagram page was up, had already had 29,000 followers on Instagram or something like that at the time. I then started the YouTube channel. And that is really more focused around me and my story in particular to begin with, and then branching out to other people's stories. You know, I wanted to interview you about what you're doing, talking to people. All right, guys, thanks for watching that clip from the Authentic African YouTube channel. If you want to see the full video, click up here. If you want to subscribe, don't forget to subscribe by clicking this link right here. And if you want to see anything more from the channel, then you want to click down here. All right, guys, thanks for watching. See you all in the next video.